Welcome back, everybody. In this video, I'm going to compare the cameras on the iPhone 15, on the 14, on the iPhone 13, and on the iPhone 12. I've been taking a bunch of photos with all of their cameras. I've been taking videos, selfies, slow-mo clips, and much more because I wanted to show you how big or how small the difference is between all of these phones so you can make a better decision on what phone you should buy or if you should even buy a new phone in the first place. As always, you have Amazon links for all of these phones with amazing prices down below in the description.
As always, let's begin by talking about the main camera, where, as you can see, there is a very big difference between the iPhone 12 and the rest of the phones. It looks less detailed with less dynamic range, less bokeh, and it's funny because the other phones look exactly the same. Like the pictures have been taken with the same exact camera, but no. They are different phones. This is because the iPhone 12 has by far the smallest sensor out of the bunch. The iPhone 13 had a very big increase in sensor size, the 14 had another very big increase in sensor size, and the 15 another one. The smaller the sensor, the less light comes in, so you get less detail, less dynamic range, and less bokeh. And this may not be super apparent when taking pictures at broad daylight, but as you can see, when we start taking pictures at night, it becomes very apparent which phone is better than which. The iPhone 12, even though it's not horrible because it's a decent phone for taking videos at night, cannot compete against the iPhone 15. In fact, I would say that at night you can notice a difference, even though it's very subtle, between the iPhone 15 and the 14 and the 13. I guess it's because we're stressing the phone as much as we can in a very difficult lighting situation, but yeah, at night I can notice a small difference between the 15 and the rest. But well, unfortunately, I am afraid that the 48 megapixels on the iPhone 15 are not responsible for this. I know a lot of you are excited about the new 48 megapixel sensor that's technically going to be a lot sharper and a lot more detailed, but no, Apple actually bends down the images to 12 megapixels like the rest of the phones because the sensor is not big enough to handle 48 megapixels. They would be so tiny and light wouldn't get in, and you would actually end up with a worse photo than if you just bend down the pixels to 12 megapixels. Then, of course, we have an ultra-wide camera where, well, there are no differences. They all have the exact same 12 megapixel sensor with the same optics. And of course, they all take the exact same pictures. I don't understand. I mean, it is a very popular camera. Apple should be, I guess, paying more attention to it, updating it a little bit, but no. The iPhone 11 was the first iPhone with an ultra-wide camera, and since then we've had the same ultra-wide camera in all iPhones. Besides, I think the 14 Pro and 15 Pro, which get a slightly bigger ultra-wide camera. But yeah, well, I don't know. Kind of disappointing. Oh, and well, now we get a 2x telephoto virtual camera on the iPhone 15. It is not an actual camera with its own sensor and optics. It's just a crop in the main sensor that allows you to zoom in without losing any quality. These photos are not going to be as good looking as the ones on the main sensor without the crop because we're using less sensor space, so less light comes in. And well, as I said earlier, light is what determines the amount of bokeh, the amount of detail, the amount of dynamic range, the amount of quality of the photo. So we get less sensor, we get less light, we get a little bit less quality.
Then when it comes to video using the main camera, as you can see, there is a very big difference between the iPhone 12 and all of the other phones. And this is because the iPhone 12 was the last small sensor iPhone. I'm sure a lot of you didn't know this, but up until the iPhone 12, every iPhone had a relatively small sensor, and the cameras on the outside were also kind of tiny. But all of a sudden, Apple and the rest of the phone companies decided to start making bigger and bigger and bigger cameras on their phones. That's why the iPhone 13 has physically bigger cameras, and the iPhone 14 even bigger, and the 15, again, even bigger. That's why you can see like a shift between 12 and 13, and then from then on, all phones look pretty much identical. I'm sure if I stress test all of them in a more challenging situation and I pixel peep to see the differences, you're going to be able to notice differences between all of them. But like in a normal scenario, you see, like taking a normal video, the only visible difference is between the 12 and the rest. And of course, I also have to talk about selfie video, which is probably the most popular way to make videos. In this case, there's no difference between any of the phones. As you can see, the 14, 13, 15, and 12 all have the same look, and they all have the same colors, and they all have the same apparent dynamic range. This is because, well, they all have the same pretty much. Maybe there are some subtle differences in the optics, but for the most part, they all have the same sensors with the same sensor sizes, the same optics, so the quality is going to be the same. Apple, for some reason, doesn't like to update this camera. They only updated it on the 14 Pro and the 15 Pro. Those are the only new phones with like modern selfie cameras. The rest have just the basic selfie camera we've had for the past couple years. Quality is going to be identical in all of them as a consequence of this.
So, conclusion, are there improvements on the iPhone 15 as opposed to the old models? Yes. I mean, they're very, very, very subtle if we compare it to the iPhone 14, but I guess if you have an iPhone 12 or even older, an iPhone 11 or an iPhone XR, you can justify an upgrade. The difference is going to be very noticeable. Just please do me the favor to not upgrade from the 14 to the 15. I would say that's one of the most irresponsible financial decisions you're going to make because they are pretty much the same phone. So yeah, please, at least an iPhone 13. Don't upgrade from the 14. As I said earlier, you have Amazon links for all of these phones down below in the description with amazing prices. And now that the video is about to end, I recommend you go check them out.